Inside New Orleans Sports with Eric Asher is underwritten by...
At Villere's Florist, we deliver the magic of flowers 7 days a week to the North Shore and South Shore in the New Orleans area. Whether it's for birthday parties, baby celebrations, Villere's provides colorful floral displays for all. With a store full of fresh-cut flowers, exotic tropical flowers, orchids, roses, and even fruit baskets, our goal is to make your vision a reality. Villere's Florist, proudly serving Louisiana since 1969.
Dave Miette Insurance Agency, 504-556-0809 or davemietteINSagency.com.
CNC Drugs is a family-owned pharmacy that's been serving Southeast Louisiana for over 50 years. Whether you need help taking care of an elderly family member, a growing child, or even a pet, CNC provides patient-centered care for your entire family. CNC Drugs, large enough to serve you, small enough to know you. Locations in Mandeville and Araby.
Good evening and welcome to another edition of Inside New Orleans Sports. I'm your host, Eric Asher. We come to you live from our Pontchartrain production studios. As always, welcome to the show. Tonight, Gus Kattengell of ESPN 100.3 is our guest. And of course, we'll cover all the home teams as we always do. Gus, welcome back to the show. Always good to have you, my friend. Tell us about what's going on in your world.
I'm just loving this right now because now we're getting into almost June, right? Late May. Which means we're going to get like dusk lighting. I mean, there are lighting production people that work hard to get that dusk glow that you're going to have right there behind you.
Oh, no. This is a great set, great
How you
studio.
doing, man?
I got a haircut today.
Happy phase one to you.
Yeah, no doubt. I got a haircut today. We're just like, I never thought I'd be waiting for a haircut. Yeah. But again, it was like 4 months.
Like a new man.
Okay. Oh, I'm going to tell you, when I saw the hair hit the floor, actually the hairstylist was actually, she'd never seen me in the condition where I had the fro. You guys didn't see the fro either because I had it slicked back Pat Riley style so much. I had so much product in the hair. It took me 20 minutes to get it out at night when I come home. But
my wife started today downtown back at her office. And last night or yesterday afternoon, I get home from the show. She was still working at home. She looked at me. She goes, pedicure. I'm going to go. Can you watch the kid? Yeah, sure. So people are starting to get back to normal and feeling that way. And man, she came home. She's like, feel how soft they are. Like, I trust you. I don't need to go touching the feet. But we're good.
I got you.
We're good. But no, it is, man. It's crazy. I think the last time we were here kind of talking about it, what the phases would be like. Would we see basketball? What would football sort of be like? And we kept saying, let's just give some time to do it. And that's what we've been doing, man, on our show each and every day. It's a bit of sports. It's a bit of news because it all kind of coincides, right? We're trying to find out the latest on the virus so they can make the determinations to when we can play sports. The latest on the virus will determine on whether or not you can come watch sports. The latest on the virus will determine can we even watch sports and be it all together when we're going to be to normal. So it's all actually all in one.
Right. Well, I love the diversification of the show. Yeah. You know, I mean, that's what I like to do. I like to talk news, sports, talk about New Orleans. Again, when I get a chance to listen in, when I'm off the air, you're doing that now. And I think the audience appreciates it. Again, to be able to get them
follow your lead every now and then, give it to some politicians.
That's always fun. Believe me, I'm on their hit list.
They've earned it. They've earned it.
Yeah, they have. But again, hopefully, slowly creeping back to a sense of normalcy. Yeah. And look, let's credit the NFL here, right? NFL has just gone full blown. We're gonna keep to our timeline. We're not going to maneuver at any point. And thankful for that because we've had some sports to talk about. Other than that, it would be like Michael Jordan's last dance. Other than that,
they are professional distractors, aren't they?
Yeah,
they're the ones that you wind up the little monkey with the little symbols and everything. Just look at the little silly monkey. Look at it. Look how cute he is. Yeah, I know, but there's like people, there's cars that could get run over. No. Look at the little monkey. Look how cute he is. Look at the little symbols. He's just playing. It's true. Like, it was crazy. You looked at the week leading into the NFL draft, Eric, and it was should we even be having it? How's this going to work? Because again,
Right.
what are you talking about? Everything's great. Everything's great. Right. Oh, here's the memo, by the way, on Wednesday night. Don't anybody talk about the fact that we're not going to play. Don't anybody talk about that there's not going to be any fans. You'll be fined. You'll be, subject to repercussions. All right, let's get on to the draft. How about that draft? I mean, the memo even talks about we're here to provide entertainment. We're the hope that this country needs. And here comes the schedule.
Yep.
By the way, the memo before the night of the schedule release, don't make sure that you talk that we may not have fans. No. We will see you in September.
Right.
But no, they're perfect. I mean, that's what they do. The NFL operates as is, and they tell you to operate as is and plan as is.
And rightly so, Gus, because again, as we've talked about on this show, you and I have discussed, we've discussed in our programs, we as a world, not just the United States, as the world you cannot plan anything past 30 days.
Right.
We're on a 30-day rotation here based on, again, what's going on with COVID-19. And look, a lot of people believe there won't be fans in the stands. I say let's wait and see. Okay? We'll find out more within within the next 30 to 90 days where we're going to be, and I think that's going to really signal where we'll be in the fall, whether football on the collegiate level is going to start on time. The NFL looks like they're starting on time no matter what. And then, of course, so what's going to happen with basketball, and we'll get into all that as we go in the program today.
I think you look at the business community, or to the business community, to kind of give us an idea so we can get talking about these topics here, right? What you and I do, we depend on sponsorships.
Sure.
We depend on our relationships with business partners. That's radio, television, film,
Absolutely.
we all do. And they've always said, give us an opportunity to figure it out. They've been saying that for a while. And that's what you're seeing here in phase one, right? You're seeing the little blue lines, them working on spacing things. We talked before the show a couple of places operating and getting moving. They figured it out, and they're operating again. And it goes to your point. Let these schools, we saw Ohio State's AD come out this week and say, look, we're modeling. How would you do 20 to 22,000? How could we put in 40 to 50,000? We get it's not going to be a full. I understand that. It's this year. And I think that's what I keep telling to my audience is relax. Next year it'll be, once the vaccines come out and once we understand what's going on, we're going to be hopefully back to normal this time next year, Eric. But for the meantime, it's going to be different. You may have to wait a little bit to go get your pizza or go sit down and have your meal, at Katie's or something like that. But you can still go do it because they're figuring it out. We're all figuring it out one time or another. And there's still some time, there's still some months before we get to some action. I do think they will figure it out some sort of way or form. And then we'll come back here and do the show, and then we'll be talking about, well, how come I didn't get in the lottery and all that for seats? But I do think we're going to see fans. I didn't think so for a while, but seeing how the business community is figuring it out, well, why can't they figure it out?
I think they will. I definitely think they will. Let's jump into some Saints.
Sure.
First of all, Saints signed Ty Montgomery, the former running back, receiver, kick returner from the Green Bay Packers. Had a decent stint with Green Bay until he made a snafu, again, fumbling a kickoff. Ultimately costing a game against the Rams. What that meant was Aaron Rodgers didn't have a chance to get the ball to go down the field. But he had a cup of coffee with the Baltimore Ravens, a cup of coffee with the Jets. And I got to tell you right now, I'm excited about this guy because what he does, what he brings to the table is exactly what the Saints are looking for. A guy that can play multiple positions, a guy that can back up Kamara at the running back position. He might be that third receiver for the Saints going forward. And oh, by the way, if Deontay Harris has an injury, he's a guy that can return kicks for you as well. Look, I know he's got to make the team yet, but for him, this is the perfect place for him to be able to, again, showcase his skills in a Sean Payton offense.
You mentioned the word Sean Payton there. That's where I was going to go, right? There's two things for him, and it's versatility, and it's also the ability to do multiple things, obviously the versatility, and also just be able to provide different type of aspects to it, right? So when you look at the Sean Payton and the Saints DNA, versatility is the number one thing that he loves to have with the offensive lineman. Can you play multiple positions? Can you look at this player here and he's, receiver converted to running back, things of that nature. So when you look at it, I think it makes a ton of sense from that standpoint. Monetarily, again, I don't know how they keep doing this. And it just continues what we see in this offseason with the Saints. It's not only reloading, but adding depth, adding pieces. And when you hear Ty Montgomery speak, he thinks, and he kept referencing the days of Alvin Kamara and Mark Ingram. He thinks he can come in and be that kind of contributor and be a 1-2 punch or a double barrel, triple barrel. Here's Murray, here's Kamara, here's him, because What have we talked about with Alvin Kamara? Trying to sustain those legs. And remember, it's an extra game coming here in the near future as well.
Right.
So I think you're going to need multiple backs, and I think the fact that he talked about how he and his agent looked at it as this would be a good opportunity for him.
Right.
It makes sense.
I think it's a perfect fit for him going forward. Again, I don't think that Baltimore nor the New York Jets knew how to utilize his skill set. Obviously, Green Bay knew how to. And again, I think it fits perfect with what the Saints do. And look, when Kamara went out last year, they didn't have another Kamara. And I'm not saying this guy's Kamara, but he has a Kamara-type skill set. Traquan Smith never evolved into that third receiver. You've got Emmanuel Sanders now. That's going to help you. And again, they have other weapons there. Maybe, again, you're looking at Taysom Hill. We'll get into him in a little while. But this gives you a guy that's a bona fide, could be a third receiver for you. And then, again, look, he's a pretty good kickoff return specialist as well. So he brings a lot to the table. And, look, you got to figure – Peyton always has a vision for a player, right? He probably looked at this guy a vision, and as you mentioned, minimum salary for a veteran.
Yeah,
so come on.
It's a great opportunity for both parties. And I mentioned two things in the DNA of Sean Payton. He likes versatility. What's the other? He likes competition.
Absolutely.
He believes competition brings out the best in his players, and competition will make it easy for you to decide who the best players are. So, look, I like a guy that's hungry. I like a guy that's probably still doesn't want his legacy to be what happened in that playoff game.
Yes.
I mean, I like that. So I look at him as somebody that absolutely will provide competition, could provide versatility. He's got to make that roster. And, Eric, you keep looking at the moves this team made in this offseason, man.
True.
And we're going to probably sit here on the eve of kickoff and say, arguably, once we see who makes it and if they're healthy going into the season, most talented roster he's had, Sean Payton?
I would think so. It's got to be pretty close, especially, again, when you know with the holes they had to fill, and they filled them for the most part. Still, again, in my opinion, need a corner that can swing from left to right. That's necessary. Still probably need another linebacker, although they did sign Anthony Chickillo today, who's more of a special teams player. He's a guy that can play more of a rush end and also a linebacker. He had some problems off the field. He had a altercation with his girlfriend and was arrested for simple assault, criminal mischief, and harassment. It was a domestic dispute. It was dropped, and ultimately was on the commissioner's exempt list. Then he was cleared from there, so he's ready. He's ready to go as maybe another special teams player. We know the Saints are really honed in on trying to make sure those special teams are the best. But I still think maybe another linebacker, and then that guy that can swing from tackle from left to right. And, of course, they just recently re-signed Patrick Onome, who's a swing guard tackle for them.
A little pass rush help I'd throw into that list as well. And they still may. There's still some guys out there with some names. And there's one thing that Sean Payton does. He scours.
Right.
While you're in training camp and you're working to try to make the Saints team, he says it himself. He says it about the guys at his training camp, that other teams are looking at his practice tapes and his preseason tapes, and he's doing the same thing. So, because it's the two areas, Eric, that's really stopped the Saints probably from winning a second Super Bowl. It's injuries, and it's injuries to the lines. The Saints 2 years ago, I thought, got decimated on the O-line, and it affected them. And in last year, their D-line got decimated, man. And come playoff time, you need those two pieces working. It's like it's almost forgotten because it's so easy to go back and look at the Super Bowl year of 2009 and look at the skill position players, look at the playmakers on defense, the Tracy Porter interceptions. We forget those lines were pretty healthy.
Absolutely.
I mean, that offensive line, I want to say stayed intact,
They did.
dude, right? I don't remember really a bunch of reserves coming in against the Colts. You had those guys. And the Saints haven't been in the playoffs with their starting lineup healthy. I mean, Ramchek's in a sling after practice, after games. You got knee braces, Armstead's going in and out of plays during games. That line's got to stay healthy, both sides.
Yeah, I would agree. Which leads us to the draft. First of all, let's take Cesar Ruiz. Your thoughts?
I think it makes, again, another sensible move that makes so much sense, right? I mean, regardless of how they felt about Larry Warford, this is a team that you go back to Ramczyk, you go back to last year with McCoy, and now Ruiz. 3 straight years, I want to say, 3 or 4 straight years, 3 out of the last 4, 3 straight, that you've started a rookie. So they trust they're fine with it, but it's because probably they trust their scouting and they trust who they are. And the single thing that really stood out to me was when they had their offensive line coach, run game coordinator come on from Michigan and addressed the Saints media, and he said that, 99% of the calls that Ruiz made were 100% accurate. Well, 99%
99% accurate, right.
Right. So, and he was making those checks. Now, we know here in New Orleans, Drew Brees makes a ton of those checks. That's why that move makes so much sense, right? Because you likely make him the center. McCoy goes to guard. And now the guy who his entire time in Michigan was used to making those calls can do that for the quarterback post Drew Brees.
Yes.
That makes a ton of sense because when you speak to other quarterbacks, whether it's Teddy, Jameis even mentioned it, their centers, their offensive linemen, normally are responsible for making those calls.
Those line calls.
Drew's different. He's a weirdo, right? He's the one that goes everywhere and everybody.
He's the maestro. He makes all the calls.
Exactly. So post Drew Brees, who's going to do that? And so again, it just when you start thinking of the thought process, you can see Sean's thinking 2-3 years down the line.
Yes.
And you remember the days, man, of Willie Roaf. When the Saints needed a first down, where'd they go? To the left side.
Right.
I can envision the middle to the right where this team's going to go, right? I mean, Rams, I'm not saying the left is, but when you look at it, it's like that. So then not only do I like that move when you look at it from that standpoint, but again, thinking post-Drew Brees, Armstead's been here a bit. Pete's been here a little bit. So now McCoy would be, 3 years in. Ramczyk 3-4 years in. The Ruiz second year by the time a new quarterback gets in. Man, you're looking at it anywhere between 3 to 7 year offensive line guys working together. That helps whoever is the signal caller, whether it's Hill, whether it's a kid that's in college this season. He's only going to come in and have a set of guys that know how to work together.
Yeah, I would agree. Zach Bond was their first third-round pick. What were your thoughts on Bond?
We talked about it last time we were here, right? Linebacker just was a
neon
neon
it was
line.
absolutely a need.
I mean, it was either going to be in the first round or early. And you heard Sean Payton the days of the draft talk about they tried for an hour to try to move up, to go get this guy. And sans the diluted test over at the Combine, this is a first-round grade, right? This is a first-round talent. So, look, it's a position that just screams need, screams depth, and screams playmaker. And, look, it's no offense to Anzalone or anybody else that they got there, but Demario Davis is your best linebacker.
Yes.
That I can depend on every day and, can make plays, great leadership qualities, things of that nature. And, look, it sort of adds – I keep saying there's two keys to the DNA for Peyton. There's another one, and we saw it in 2006. That I would look at it and say that just hit on me. He likes chips on shoulders.
Yeah, he does.
He likes guys that have to prove us something.
He had
It was
one.
interesting. You just mentioned about the latest guy that they signed, a little off the field. Hey, prove yourself.
Right.
Prove you're not this guy.
Right.
To Shanley, to Fujita. Prove you're better than just some here you go.
Right.
I think he likes those chips on their shoulder. I think he thinks that it drives him, and he definitely has one.
Adam Troutman was their second third-round pick. They gave up their fourth, fifth, sixth-round pick. They got a seventh-round pick in the Zach Bond deal. What are your thoughts about Troutman?
I like him. I like him from two aspects of it. When it happened, right? Saints. I love Saints fans. I called it on my show selective trust. They love to have selective trust when it comes to Sean Payton. When it's something that they like, man, that coach, Sean Payton's on top of it. He's ahead of the game. He's got everything. When it's a move they don't know, what are you doing?
Right.
I mean, you can't pick and choose what to trust you. If you trust him with the offense and you trust him to go find Jimmy Graham, who we heard for years he was a basketball player. If you trust him to go find, what do you do with Ramczyk? If you trust him to, who's Kamara? If you trust him with all these things, trust him that he gave away those other draft picks because, as he mentioned, his roster's deep.
Yes.
He's like, there's going to be guys trying to fight to make this team. There's not going to be a lot of open spots.
True.
So why waste those picks if there's a guy that's 6'5"? And, I mean, did you see those highlights?
Oh,
now,
yeah.
I get it was where
man among boys.
But, yes, and that's what I'm saying. And that's raw. And to hear that he didn't pick up a football and start catching a football until college when he got there, it's incredible to think. So give him some work, whether it's Curtis Johnson or the tight ends coach that they got now, Cam. I mean, look, I think it's a steal, actually, when you think of the potential that you got with his pass-catching ability.
What about Tommy Stevens? They traded back in the seventh round to get Tommy Stevens. What's the vision for him in your mind?
Again, Saints fans, did you see them?
Right.
What are you talking about? That's the quarterback you went for? You didn't go for Jalen Hurts? He's Taysom Hill 2.0. Relax. And we don't have to believe it. We keep saying it every time we do this show, and you do yours and I do mine. Taysom Hill is going to be the quarterback that starts the first game post Drew Brees. Whether he does it in weeks 2 or 3, it's a different story. Week 1, he's going to be the starting quarterback. I mean, from the deal, I think we talked about it before, the Taysom Hill deal is going to tell you a lot about how they feel about it. They gave him $21 million, yes, 16 guaranteed. So they believe they can do it. Sean Payton consistently tells us that. Sean Payton consistently tries to tell people that. He was on in Baltimore last week. He said, you guys don't see it, but I'm telling you, that guy can play quarterback. Again, selective trust. It's incredible. We trust him with all kind of other moves. Nah, Taysom Hill can't play quarterback. You talk about the chip on the shoulder. He knows he has a nice young group that can make another run. Yes. Or can be competitive for a little bit, right? Sure. Let's be honest. Do you think this man's going to sit on his butt and not get a quarterback, the most important position?
Absolutely.
If he had any doubts that Taysom Hill could play, he'd have drafted a quarterback. If he had any doubts, he'd have made sure he'd made a trade for a young quarterback that's backing up. I like the guy, the guy from Southern Miss over there that played when Garoppolo was hurt from Southern Miss. I mean, if he thought that, man, we don't have a quarterback, you would have seen moves that made you believe that. You haven't.
Right. Although I think Tommy Stevens is going to be more of a Taysom Hill type player.
Yeah, he's
without the quarterback.
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying. He's going to. That's what I meant when I said Taysom Hill 2.0.
Right.
He'll be the special teams guy. He'll be the one trying to block punts.
Exactly.
He'll be the one, running the wishbone with him and things of that nature, and it just adds to it. Being a quarterback, if Taysom's there and he's next to him, who throws the ball, who runs it, you can play a lot of trickery and things of that nature. Yeah, he's going to provide that because Taysom's going to be your quarterback.
Well, that leads me to, again, almost what you really were just talking about, Taysom versus Jameis Winston. Your thought on adding Jameis Winston to this roster this year, what it's going to mean for the team, and then maybe the possibility of maybe re-signing him and letting both of those guys compete when Brees ends up hanging up the cleats.
All right, so when you look at that, just look at it like this, right? Take away, he's a division opponent, take away the games that we saw with him and all that. He's a quarterback that's thrown 30 touchdowns or more. He's a quarterback that's thrown 5,000 yards. And he's a former top pick. A Heisman winner. So he's got talent. Yes. Off the field, maturity issues, we only see game day, the reports, the stories that we read, whatever. But when you talk to people that cover him, and look, Eric, I think it's always telling when you hear from his teammates, or when you hear from teammates from players that move on, right? And right after something like this that happens where the team that drafts you says, see ya, peace. And then they go get Tom Brady for crying out loud.
Right.
So NFL Live's all excited, right? ESPN can't wait to have all these NFL. There's Zoom interviews left and right, whether O.J. Howard, whether it's all the different receivers, defensive players. What's the great? Yeah, Tom Brady. Well, what about Jameis Winston? They all spoke highly of him. They all spoke highly of him. Everybody that covered the team we've had on our show says he's a great locker room guy. He's a good teammate. He works hard, great work ethic, first in, first out, that whole saying. It just didn't work for one way, shape, or form. And if I'm going to tell you that I can get you a 5-year starter that has the capability of throwing the football 5,000 yards, 31 TDs for $1 million,
right?
You paid $7 million for Teddy, and you knew he wasn't throwing the ball further than 20 yards.
Right.
And he was going to be Captain Chuck. He was going to be, I'm not losing the game.
Right.
Okay, that's fine. Oh, well, he's going to throw a pick. Again, if we're in that situation, something bad happened. But what's to say the guy can't learn? I don't know what's going to happen next year. But again, if Drew Brees is going to go tie a shoe, has a helmet malfunction, and misses a series, he's a 5-year starter. He's capable of being able. He just played last year. Teddy hadn't played in a couple of years. You didn't know what it was. So, again, I go back to it, 1.1. I think it's a great deal. Again, another move that makes sense by the Saints financially, and I think physically for the football team.
And the biggest issue with him has been decision-making. It's not his arm strength. He can make all the throws. Again, he's tough as nails. He hangs into the last possible second. But it's been decision-making. And I guess I'm sure that the vision for him is get him in with this quarterback room and allow, again, him to learn a little bit under Brees, which, again, he wants to do, especially after talking to Teddy Bridgewater. And then maybe that, again, gets to the point where you see the decision making, kind of change, and maybe not taking the chance that he's taken in the past. Plus, he doesn't have to win the game with the New Orleans Saints. Yeah. Okay, at Tampa, he had to win the game. Yeah.
Literally dump it off to one of many different options.
Okay, I mean, he had to win he doesn't have to do that here. He can manage the offense if necessary. We saw Teddy Bridgewater do that. I actually watched, and I don't watch a lot of Hard Knocks. I actually watched Hard Knocks over the weekend, the Tampa Bay Hard Knocks, simply so I could see Jameis Winston and how he was reacting. Okay, and look, he's a guy that is, your typical quarterback, rah-rah, trying to get guys up, but again, a guy that is, you could see in the footage, makes mistakes. And even with Bruce Arians, they got impatient with him at times. So we'll see what happens with Sean Payton and Drew Brees. But I love the move. Okay, I love the move because again, you have a bona fide NFL starter that is your backup now. And then when it comes time for him and Taysom Hill, if he is still here, maybe again that is an opportunity for them to fight it out for the starting role. I do want to shift gears now to the schedule. What are your thoughts on the schedule? How the schedule was set up? It seems like when we look at these schedules every year, you look at them and go, man, NFL did the Saints no favors. And the NFL did the Saints no favors.
What are you talking about? I mean, the NFL loves the Saints, right?
Right. Not as long as Peyton's in the head coach.
What I found interesting was in the past, right, the NFL had done a concerted job, effort rather, to make sure so you didn't rest players and such. The last 3 of the last 4 would be division opponents. That's not the case in this one. That's interesting to me. I think there's certain games that kind of stand out that were key. My gauntlet and stretch to me I think the Saints need to take care of their business. Remember, there's only one bye this year. So it's going to be hard to do that. We're all going to love that Kansas City game, right? Who wants to see it? It could be a possible Super Bowl preview. Sure, we're going to love that. Getting the Vikings on a short week on that Friday, that's the one I'm going, what are you doing? Yeah. Aside from the fact, now, you want to argue, does the NFL like or hate the Saints? Right. Why is it a 3 o'clock kickoff or 3:30 kickoff on Christmas Day? I mean, do it at night. What do you worry? Make it a 7 o'clock kickoff. Right. Why? I mean, believe me, we all know this in New Orleans. That's the night to go hit the bars and stuff, right? We're tired of our families. We want to go out and stuff. So that kind of was a little odd. I love it. Look, start right off with Tampa Bay, get them in here, which, again, you would love to have the fans in there. But what's beautiful is if it doesn't happen that way, because we can't have fans just yet, I really believe what Adam Schefter said the day after the schedule came out, the NFL's contingency, one of the plans is to just grab the first 4 games, lop it off, attach it to the end.
Yes.
They'll still play it. Right. They're just going to back up the season. So 1 month. So game 1 for the Saints would be the Chargers.
Right.
But they're still going to do it. So you still, because look, that's a game you need fans. Right. I mean, that's a game you need fans. So, but I look at the bye and it's very eerie to the last several years. 4-1. I mean, like if you can get started early in that bye, and then the next several games after that, take care of your business. You got to beat San Francisco, man. I think that's a game again here at home. You have an opportunity to do it. I just don't want that Vikings game that's kind of lingering there at the end to matter whether or not you host a playoff game or not.
I would agree.
Because they're just a bad matchup for the Saints, man.
The Saints started out with about $10 million under the cap once they released Larry Wolford. They've signed a few players since
They're still
then.
at 10.
Okay.
I saw that today.
Okay, they're still at 10?
Yeah.
Okay, they're still at 10.
Yeah.
Okay, well, what do you think they're going to do with that money? You think they're going to go out and you think they're going to a corner or a linebacker or a lineman, or do you think they're going to take care of their own, like a Kamara or Demario Davis?
Can you both?
You could.
Yeah.
I mean, you really could.
Yeah.
Okay, you could really restructure Davis's deal right now, free up some more cap room, and then be in a situation where you extend him. Kamara's the one because, again, next year he'll be an unrestricted free agent. So you don't want to be in a situation where you have to put the franchise tag on him if you don't have to. And you don't want to be in a situation where you got Davis and Kamara where you got to choose on who you're going to put the franchise tag on.
You do see where they've done things in the past to kind of give you an idea of maybe what they might do. Look, I said on our show last year, when you started seeing the moves and the signings being made last offseason at the defensive end position, I was like, man, Cam Jordan get on the page, and I'm like, maybe it's not bad if the Saints kind of just help him out a little bit. Well, not help him out, just show him a little love. They did. They didn't make him the highest paid defensive end, but they gave him a raise.
Yes.
With what he's been doing. All-pro. He's a leader on this team. You know, Brian, who we've had on your show, he keeps thinking and calling him the next face of the franchise. He has been. I see him everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
I see him driving around town. He loves this city, and I think he's capable. And you're seeing him on the NFL Network and all. He has great personality.
Right.
But the Saints took care of him. The Saints went and took care of Michael Thomas. They didn't have to. Sean Payton, during Super Bowl week, mentioned specifically taking care of Ryan Ramczyk. That's being worked on. There's no way.
Right.
And again, we know this man. Everything out of his mouth is calculated.
There's no doubt.
He's not going to say, we need to take care of him. And then Mickey goes, what are you doing, man? I'm not ready to take care of him just yet. So they've talked about that, right? Kamara's been the thing that we've talked about for months. I do think if it's important, and we've seen under Sean Payton, keeping players happy. And you keep players happy in a number of ways. Touches, involvement, growth, opportunity, and financially. Well, he's taken care, and they've taken care of their best players. He's one of their best players. I think they're going to go into I'm a little leery what happened last year, but we believe in trust in you, and we want to make you happy. Here's an offer, and let's see where we go from there. Now, it's going to be up to Alvin. Does he want to be a top 5 paid running back? If that's the case, I think they play it out this year. If he's okay with being number 7, number 8, maybe even number 5, I think he gets signed before the end, before the season starts. I don't doubt that they're not talking about it, if that makes any sense.
No, I would agree. And again, with the pandemic and with the possibility of maybe having games without fans, you don't know what the revenue stream is going to be next year. So, I mean, that's another part of this. So, again, if you got a chance to get your money now.
That's a very good point. You do wonder if the whole strike while the iron's hot sort of thing. Look, we talked about, we'll get to it with the Pelicans here. You know, what do you do with Brandon Ingram? You know, he's waiting to get that max deal. Adam Silver's flat out told everybody, we're not going to have the money that you've been thinking about. The TV deal with the NBA is a lot different than the TV deal with the NFL. So they're about to get another big TV deal, the NFL is. So they're going to have their money to do it per se, and the cap will still grow. It depends on how big it'll move to that aspect.
Gus Kattengell is our guest tonight from ESPN 100.3 FM here in New Orleans. I'm your host, Eric Asher. You're watching Inside New Orleans Sports. We'll take a quick break here from our underwriters. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere.
Burkhart's Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration has been family-owned and operated since 1989. Burkhart has energy-efficient solutions and offers brands such as Mitsubishi ductless AC units and Amana, the only manufacturer with a lifetime unit replacement warranty. Burkhart's offers maintenance bundle packages that include servicing your AC, generator, and tankless water heater. For more information on the services Burkhart's provides, visit acpromise.com. Burkhart's Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration, providing comfort for life.
Experiencing rough weather with a bad roof can be a nightmare. It doesn't have to be.
Suburban Roofing, because when it comes to roofing, there is a difference.
Located at 3701 Iberville Street in Mid-City is Katie's Restaurant and Bar. Open 7 days a week, Katie's offers daily specials for lunch, dinner, and Sunday brunch. Serving New Orleans cuisine such as fried shrimp platters, grilled redfish, and a fully stocked bar. And don't forget about our expanded event seating and local entertainment. Featured on the Best of Food Network's diners, drive-ins, and dives, Katie's Restaurant and Bar.
Welcome back to Inside New Orleans Sports. I'm your host, Eric Asher. Tonight, Gus Kattengell of ESPN 100.3 FM here in New Orleans is our guest. The Sports Hangover is the name of the show. Let's start with some Pelicans here. First of all, David Griffin met with the media this week. Some of the things he said was kind of contradicted a little bit over the last couple days by Woj and Shams Charania. You know, again, some of the leaks that they've put out there. He talked about, again, that the commissioner, he believes that the commissioner is going to make his decision between the 1st and the 15th of June, which is really kind of coincides with everybody else is thinking as well. Griff talked about playing close to the 18 games that are left. And that there are connotations to that. And we've talked about it on this program and also on my radio show. I'm sure you've talked about it as well. Right. The regional television contracts. You have to have so many games played in order for those to kick in. So again, it is incumbent upon the NBA, for all markets, not just small markets, but big markets as well, to get these games in. So again, the regional packages will pay off. Okay. Also, again, the players have to be able to get back in NBA shape here. And for what they're going to do is, from what I understand, 2-week recall of players for quarantine, 1 to 2 weeks of individual workouts, and 2 to 3 weeks of a formal training camp restarting sometime in July. Instead of maybe the Smoothie King Center, which is what David Griffin talked about this week, it looks like now they're getting very, very close to having the bubble city that will be Orlando. But they're not going to quarantine the players or their families. There will be testing. They're also not going to stop the league if someone tests positive. They're just going to quarantine that particular player, and they're going to continue to go forward. One of the things that came out of David Griffin, and I want to get to that in a few minutes, is the possibility of moving next year to December, next year's start of the season, December, and I think that is excellent for the New Orleans Pelicans. But let's talk about this year, and then I want to get into December, because I think that could be the best thing that's ever happened to this Pelicans of the basketball franchise here in New Orleans. Do you believe that they will play the rest of the season out, or will there be a play-in tournament? How do you think this is going to go?
It's incredible. I've given the NBA so much kudos and credit, and deservedly so, especially with Adam Silver, David Stern. They always seem to be 3-4 steps ahead of the curve, man, in so many different areas, whether it's replay, whether it's treatment of players, moving forward in so many different areas, how to go about the game, growing the game, socially, technology, all of that stuff. But, man, have they seemed like they just kind of are clueless right now, and it's not that they're clueless. I just think, like a lot of people, they don't know what's best.
Yes.
And it's nuts, though, because, Eric, this week we've had 2 NASCAR Cup races. There's going to be another one Sunday and another one on Tuesday.
Right.
They're off and running.
Yes.
Golf starting in June is having 4 events, no fans. They're off and running. Yes. They've already told you what their plans are. You're getting tested. I mean, literally the PGA came out with a press conference on last Wednesday, right. Not 2 days ago. Right. Last Wednesday. Hey, here it is. You're going to be tested. If you're 100.4, you can, while you're tested, you can practice Monday and Tuesday, but you won't be able to pay. They have it all worked out. In the NBA, literally by the day, it's Bubble City. No, we'll play at the home arena. No Bubble City. Well, maybe the postseason is just a Bubble City. Okay, 5 to 7 games. Well, no, we need 10 games. Well, maybe we just do a play-in tournament. You're like, oh, my gosh. Right. And I think the problem is no one sort of knows, and the problem is also you have multiple teams in some big states that really weren't open. That's why it was big earlier this week that California said, come on back in June. New York, come on back in June.
That's right.
Texas, see you May 31st. I'm going to beat you by a day, which is remarkable because 2 of those 3 states were already telling you politically they didn't want kids to go to school in the fall. And all of a sudden, Florida and some of these other states said, now y'all can go play over here. Right. And then they went, oh, we can't lose that money.
Right.
Let's just play, but without fans. Come on, everybody come back.
Sure.
So I think there's ideas, and there's a whole bunch of different scenarios to go with it. My only concern, and you brought it up, though, before we even get talking any further, it's money.
That's what it comes down to.
Period, end of story. It's money,
Right.
okay? So good for the game, the greater good of the game, the greater good of the contracts. If Ingram wants his max deal, then you need to play games. Because it makes absolutely 0 sense to get everybody amped up, as you just mentioned in that timeline, basically 1 month, if not 6 weeks, right, to get ready to play, go through a training camp for 3 games, because I heard anywhere between 3 and 5 when we first started this, to show up, you got no shot to make the playoffs, and then you're going to shut it down again until December or November. It makes no sense for you to do that financially, because it's going to cost the Pelicans to go there. I mean, is Disney World giving you the hotel rooms? Does the NBA have to pay for that? Well, that's what I'm getting at. You're going to be not quarantined, I can bring your family up. I still got to move people over there. So how long are we going to be? If it's just the playoffs, dude, are we going 3 or 5? Or if we're doing best of 7, that's 2 months. They start in April, and the finals start in June. So it doesn't make any sense to me. I'm either doing the all-play-in tournament to give those teams a reason to play, but where do you start that, Eric? Do you go 1 through 4, you're in, and then 5 and all the way to the end to play in? Because if you look at the Eastern Conference, they're all set. I mean, there's 2 teams that maybe would play for seeding that have the same record. But The Wizards are 6.5 out. So you're going to have to play 10, 12, 15 games and pray they win all of them for them to get it. The Pelicans are tied with 3 teams with the same record, and they're 3.5 behind the Grizzlies. Unless you play the Grizzlies 5 times. I mean, David Griffin said it, that our schedule's going to be significantly tougher. What does that mean? Are you going to play the Spurs, the Kings, and Grizzlies 2 times? Those 3 teams, that's your 6 games? Is that what you're going to do? I don't get it. So, to me, just start the playoffs.
Okay. That's what you would do.
Start the playoffs. You'll get your money. You're going to get your viewership. Make it best of 7 then, because you don't have to play the regular season. Like Steve Kerr said, I don't now have to worry. My season's over with. I'm not going to throw out Klay Thompson out there. Now, Durant may want to play with the Nets. And all that. That's fine. But start the playoffs then if that's the case. If you don't start the playoffs, then give me something like a play-in tournament where it makes sense. Do it round robin. I don't care if it's 1 game. That's fine. Do it like the NCAA March Madness. I mean, I don't know. Do something of that nature. But honestly, the more I think about it, especially if it's not at this arena, just start the playoffs. Go do the playoffs over there. I got a beautiful tease of what I think this Pelicans team is going to be. I'll see them in December.
Well, and look, you mentioned 2 things. First of all, you look at teams that are getting healthy. Okay, you have a chance to get healthy here. Maybe if Durant comes back for Brooklyn, maybe that gives them an extra bit of a boost. It would. You look at the other part of it is, which is what they have to figure out. Do you just play the season out as it is, or do you now shift it and you set it up where you're playing teams within your division or within your conference? Or is it going to be the play-in tournament? I would like to see them play the last 18 to 20 games, especially if they're going to do it in a bubble city, and then go into the playoffs and do it that way. Although, again, I could see the other part of it. It could be really exciting if it was a tournament, and maybe a team like the Pelicans could go, wait a minute, we have a chance now. We're going to go to this round-robin tournament to actually get into the playoffs. But look, no matter what, I think it's good for the Pelicans to get in the playoffs and get a taste of the playoffs. That's why I'd like to see the season resume.
I agree, and I think if you want to look at and try to pull away the positives, look, they'll get extra practice time, so that's going to be good. You'll get time to work in those individual workouts. Those guys can still work with the shooting coaches and the training staff, and Zion can get in better shape, which he looks great, by the way. That interview with Ernie Johnson 2 weeks ago, you can see it in his face. He's been rehabbing, quote unquote, which is crazy. David Griffin said, I'm like, what is he rehabbing? I thought he was healthy.
Me too.
Yeah, but hey, that's a great way to say.
You can call it rehabbing.
That's right. There you go. He's rehabbing. We all know he was getting in better shape, which is great. I love that. So, like I said, it will benefit them from at least being able to get some more extra practice work and everything. And look, and working is better than not. So getting a chance to work out with those guys together and run some ball and get some practice, I guess, is better than not.
You mentioned when we opened up the show about, again, that there are models out there that universities are doing to try to figure out if they can have fans this fall. The great news is it looks like college athletics is starting up again. The NCAA voted on Wednesday to allow voluntary athletic activities on campus starting on June 1st. That's for men's basketball, women's basketball, football. That'll go from June 1st to June 30th. The other sports will be acted on at a later date. Now, again, the workouts are going to be voluntary. They're going to be on-field coaches. The coaches will not interact with the athletes. Only the conditioning and the strength coaches will be able to work with the athletes and supervise the workouts. The SEC is expected to vote on that on Friday, which is tomorrow. The LSU AD, Scott Woodward, said, again, that his kids, his athletes, student athletes, will be on campus in early June. So we can expect that. It's huge. First of all, you're getting a chance as a college kid to work out in the facilities. The training table, the opportunity to be able to eat, again, a good diet that's being watched by a dietitian. And then, again, you're all on campus again. So you can get with these individual position groups outside of what the coaches would be doing, and you can start working out with your teammates. This is huge for again, the restarting of college athletics.
100% agree with you. And in reading Ross Dellinger's great piece, in collaboration with a lot of the other reports that you've seen as to how it's going to be completely different. It's going to be odd, too. And look, I'm part of a college broadcast team as well, so how I operate on the sidelines is going to be different. Will I have to wear a mask during the sidelines? Will I be allowed to go into the locker room? Are they going to bring players out? How is that going to go? Basketball, can I go to practice and watch? I mean, all these different things. Again, we got time. But I do find it funny. It's one of the reasons why people laugh at the NCAA.
Right.
Why would you not want to coach there? What do you mean the players have to initiate it? I mean, can you at least kind of send them via text? I'd suggest, Miles Brennan, you do these routes. And why can't Ensminger be out there? It makes no sense to me. I mean, I don't understand why you wouldn't supervise or supervision by your coaches to make sure you do it right, because you know what you're going to be doing. If you're not doing it right, you're lollygagging or not doing it right. They'll find ways, obviously, to get the right workouts in. But from stairwells to going one way up, one way down to it was described as a human car wash, what the weight rooms are going to be like. You go in one way. When you get done with the squat rack, they're going to have people right there to clean it for the next person, things of that nature. What I don't understand is you won't be able to share footballs, that you can't throw them to one another. I don't understand that. Which, again, I don't look, I understand we're all very nervous about this bug. I really, really do. Last I checked, name me a football player that doesn't wear gloves.
True.
So if I open a new pair of gloves and put them on in the locker room, I literally have not touched anything with those gloves. Why can't I catch a football? I don't know if maybe it's just not worded properly. Like, can my bare hand not pick up a football or something? But so what? Can the quarterbacks not? How do you get it? How do you throw it to somebody if they can't do it? So I think it's probably multiple people touching footballs or something. Maybe you need gloves, but no high fives, no sharing of towels, water bottles, things of that nature.
I get the towels and the water bottles. The footballs are over the top. And I think at some point they'll figure out again how to sanitize a football. Okay, when the kids go out and they practice on their own, they're not having multiple footballs. Okay, that's going to take care of itself.
Tackle you.
Right. It's a contact sport.
One day, shape, or form. A sweaty body will be on me or around me at some point.
Right. Exactly. No
they
doubt.
spit on the ground the entire time. I get it, and I'm not trying to say that we shouldn't be safe or anything, but it's just, again, overabundance of caution, because you know this, you cover it all the time in your show. Liability.
Absolutely.
Safety of people's kids that are not your own.
Especially when you're talking about the collegiate level.
Exactly right. So there will be an overabundance of caution, and we will start to see things peel away as they get normal once you get accustomed and adjusted.
Yeah, I would agree. Let's grab a couple calls. Let's go first to Greg in Houma. Greg, welcome to Inside New Orleans Sports. Hey, Greg.
Hey, guys. I have a theory on Alvin Kamara and the Saints, and I'm basing this on the offensive game plan with Drew Brees, meaning Kamara is more important than Drew Brees. And if Taysom Hill is going to be the quarterback, then I base the offense being run like Baltimore with Lamar Jackson and Mark Ingram. So maybe that's kind of what they're thinking, and I'll hang up and listen.
Gus?
Yeah, again, I think what you're going to see is, you talked about with Ty Montgomery, the versatility. You talked about how, if they do decide to run it with Kamara, it's a contract year. Sure. We all know how motivated players are in a contract year. But I think it's as much versatility as possible. And look, I think you see Taysom Hill get more snaps under center this year, to be honest with you. A, to save the arm, B, to kind of get him some more experience. And to throw it, because look, at some point in time, everyone's seen him line up while he's running.
Right.
Everyone's seen him line up while he's going up the middle. Everyone's seen him while he's running, he's going to do an option. You're going to have to see some other plays for him to do that. But I think you're going to see Sean Payton, I keep saying this year, this offseason, it really does feel like he's going to go, you know what, it's all on the table. I think you're going to see a very aggressive coach this year.
As do I. Dwayne is in Belle Chase. Dwayne, welcome to Inside New Orleans Sports. Hey, Dwayne.
Hey, I'd like to know, what they should start the NBA season with the regular games they have left. I feel like they're not far behind, and I think they can make the playoffs. I'd like to know what y'all think, and I'm gonna hang up with you.
I think I think they got a really good shot to make the playoffs if ultimately they restart the season. Yeah. If they play the schedule as it was, I think they have a good shot. If they do some type of play-in tournament, I think the way this team was evolving, they have a shot.
What's going to be interesting is not only with the Pelicans, but a lot of the other teams here as well, is the continuity. Because they were playing well. I mean, Lonzo Ball, right? People were writing articles on how Lonzo, that switch had just got, he was whether it's Favors or Zion. I mean, he was throwing alley-oops to everybody on the team, half court. So that takes a little bit to get. But again, we're not playing Tuesday and everybody gets together on Sunday. Right. They're going to have a month to get sort of back into it.
Yes.
At the same time, they're all going to be battling wind early on. They're all going to be battling to kind of get that groove back together. And I think one of the reasons there's a lot of people that believe they can make the playoffs, look, they're going to be healthier. A lot of those players dealt with a lot of injuries this year on the Pelican staff. Right. That said, though, Memphis lost a lot to players and dealt with injuries.
And they'll be
healthier as well, and that's a team that's not going anywhere.
Yeah, I would agree. I want to go back to the seasons and what we may be looking at next year. The NFL looks like they're starting on time, and if they're not, they're going to maybe move. As you said, the first 4 games may go at the end of the season. But again, they will probably start the following season like they do with the September kickoff. College football, they're prepared to move this thing backwards or forwards depending on what's going to happen. But again, we would hope that maybe next year they would start on time. Major League Baseball, it looks like it'll start sometime in July, possibly. Whether they stay with that calendar going forward and shrink the season is still up in the air. But here in New Orleans, something was brought up in David Griffin's press conference about the possibility of, again, starting the NBA season in December. And I've said this since as long as we've had an NBA team here in New Orleans. It would be incredible for the franchise here in New Orleans if NBA basketball started in December. We are a football town. Nobody pays attention to the Pelicans except for a small few of us until really December or January. You wouldn't have to compete with college football, high school football, or pro football. I would love it if ultimately the NBA would say, you know what, we'll take this thing into July, and we're going to start in December.
Yeah, look, I'm with you. And I think one of the other things, too, Eric, to think about is this. David Griffin flat out said it, that he understands there's a football town, and he said it would be best for us if we could start getting everybody's undivided attention in December. He flat out said it.
Yeah.
I mean, those were the words, essentially. So he understands that. And look, I do think it changes eventually, especially if Pels become the bigger draw or the bigger show post-Drew Brees if the Saints don't win. But in the meantime, Drew Brees' final season, all that other stuff, man. I agree. But I've always thought that would make the most sense. I get what they were trying to do to try to avoid back-to-backs, which is why you saw you're not going nuts like I was in a while. I was like, I know the season started in November. I remember one of the years it started on Halloween night.
Halloween
but
night.
Now it's like October 12th.
Right.
They're going further and further in.
Right.
And it makes no sense to start then. I mean, you're not even to the meat and potato. I mean, LSU hadn't played Bama yet.
Right.
I mean,
well, most of the country's not paying attention.
No, and so it didn't make any sense, but they were doing that to try to space back-to-backs and not have as many back-to-backs and long road trips. But I'm with you. I don't – look, I'm a huge baseball fan. I love my Cubs. That's a lot of games, dude.
Yep.
You know what? I pay attention in April.
Right.
I'll call the season for the Cubs around mid-April because we're bums and they're terrible. And then I might get back into it like in July. Do we have a shot? No, we don't. And then the playoffs come in October. That's when I really care about baseball. So a shortened season, I would love a shortened season in baseball. Do it in the summer. I think the NBA would make sense, man, to do that. I know you can say you're competing against Major League Baseball and all that, but it's 2 different sports, and it's 2 different people that are watching it right now.
That's true.
So if you start in December, you literally will have the finals in July and August, which is perfect. They're hosting the Larry O'Brien, and then training camp starts literally
for
the week
NFL.
right after that. I mean, that to me would be perfect. You don't compete with any of that.
And I think it ends up helping a program like Tulane as well here in New Orleans. If Tulane can continue to be able to ascend like they're doing under Willie Fritz, all of a sudden now, when you start cutting up that sports entertainment pie, people are looking at going, you know what?
Conference playing college basketball starts in January.
That's right. So why not, again, for the Tulane football teams I'm talking, why not go to Yeoman and catch some games?
Right.
Because now you're not saying, well, the Pelicans are playing tonight, the Pelicans are playing, and Tulane's playing.
Well, look, the sports dollar, man, let's be honest. I mean, there's only so many ways you can stretch it.
No doubt.
I mean, it really is.
We found out this week something we've known, right? Mercedes-Benz is not going to renew the contract. I don't know why everybody became a story, right?
We knew that 2 years ago.
Right, we really did. But again, what was interesting is what the Saints are going to try to do. They're not going to jump the first offer here. They got some things in mind on how they want to move forward on the naming rights for the Dome. Look, I'm one, and I've said this before, I didn't like the fact that they renamed the Dome. I understand why. You know, again, state subsidies, again, were lessened by having the naming rights. But the fact that they had a first-class organization like Mercedes-Benz to put their name on it, I had no issue with it from that standpoint. But I like the Louisiana Superdome. I think that's a building that can stand on its own, like Wrigley Field, like Madison Square Garden or Lambeau Field. They don't need a name attached to it.
There's a lot of people that have that sentiment. I mean, you're not alone. And literally getting ready to come here and do the show with you guys, I had a little time like to look at social media. And I mean, everyone, call it the Louisiana Superdome, the New Orleans Superdome. It needs to just be the Superdome. People just want it to be that. Here's the reality of the situation. When you have the ability to make a couple of $1 million,
right. 50 to 60 million is what they made on the 10-year contract.
Right. And you had that ability, you name me what business is going to then say, well, no, we won't do it for a name. So what I would say this to you and other fans that said, well, just keep that name. Okay, where else am I going to get that $34 million, $50 million, $60? Where? So do I increase my signage inside? Do I increase my signage on the parking garage? Right. Is my signage now on billboards all around everywhere? Is, that area where the Benson Tower is and, everybody hangs out with the concerts, is that just tattooed, man, with just plastered with billboard and signage? Is that where? Because, again, 50 to 60 million. Who's walking away from that? Now, I don't know if you're going to get that in this climate. So do you see 2 short deals, maybe 30 million for 3 years or something of that nature, 10 million a year? But again, I have a hard time believing that the team, for the sake of, well, we would just love the name to be that way, are not going to do it. Because you got to find another way. So come up with another way to come up with that money to either do that, and then maybe it'll stay the Louisiana Superdome. But look, I don't have any attachment to it from this standpoint. I honestly don't. I mean, it doesn't affect me at all when I walk in or do it or talk about it or see it. But it's been funny, man. Anywhere from Zatarans to Popeyes to, the Daiquiri drive-through. I mean, all kinds of different.
It's got to be a classy name. Okay, it's an iconic building.
Yeah.
Okay, you can't put Joe's Strip Club on the top of the dome here. It's got to be a company that, again, people look at and go, "Wow, that is a great company."
I like it to tie in with something, whether it's a food place or something of that nature that you could see things inside. I mean, we saw posters and pictures of cars, but if it's something that can sort of enhance the dome in there on a game day experience, whether it's a technology company that allows you, because of that, the seats can be upgraded. Like, let's say Sprint or Verizon.
Right.
So you know what? Your seats has a little charger for your phone, huh? Right. Something like, I would like the naming rights to maybe be attached with something that can be a part of the building some way, shape, or form.
Great call.
Whether it's food for concessions, whether it's technology that the fans can use, or whether it's some other form that can sort of help. Maybe an electric company or something like that has electrical cars for wheelchair access. They can go around the dome or something. But tie it in to make it useful to people that maybe then won't care about the name. We're interested to see, again, how they go. Gus Kattengell, as always, thanks so much for joining us. No shot at the Asher Dome, though. No shot. Okay. No shot. Even if they wanted to do it, I'd say keep the Louisiana Superdome. There you go. Hey, thanks so much for tuning in. Remember, there's a rebroadcast of this program each and every Friday night right here on WLAE-TV at 10 p.m. Also, you can catch us statewide, Pelican Sports Television, 9 o'clock every Friday night. You can catch me on the radio. That is over at Sports 1280, 101.1 FM HD2 and the iHeart Radio app. You can listen live, download the podcast at ericasher.com. All the previous episodes of this program can be seen at ericasher.com as well. Again, special thanks to Gus Kattengell, noon to 3 over at ESPN 100.3, The Sports Hangover. Also, thanks to our production staff here at WLAE-TV, and, of course, our fantastic underwriters. Our production staff, Ron Yeager, Jim Dotson, Naila Jones, Alex Chacon, Tommy Fairley, and, of course, my director, William Hill. I'm Eric Asher. Thanks so much for tuning in. Next week, we'll be joined by Mike Detillier. Until then, have a great week.